Hi all, this is a lesson on section 1.3 Government Intervention, focused on subsidies. Firstly, a definition. Subsidies are grants provided by the government to firms aimed at lowering production costs and increasing output. So make sure you know the definitions, these are important to know. Before we go into why governments give subsidies, I think it would be more useful to see the effects they create. This will then let us more easily understand the reasons for giving these subsidies. Okay, so how do they work? First, I want you to draw a demand and supply diagram for the market for solar panels. Solar panels are a product that commonly do receive subsidies. And draw a subsidy occurring in this market. This is revision. We first did this weeks ago, so I want you to pause now and do this. Okay, easy. There we've got supply and demand and a subsidy, supply shift rate. Now we mark on the original equilibrium pricing quantity and the new equilibrium pricing quantity due to the subsidy. I've labeled them PE and P subsidy, QE, Q subsidy. So we can see clearly that the price of the panels decreases and quantity produced increases as a result. If you know that a subsidy results in an increase in supply, you'll always be able to draw it and see these effects on price and quantity. Don't try to remember what the effects of price and quantity are, just draw it out and you'll see it. Our next step is for us to look at consumer surplus. We've seen consumer surplus a couple of times already, so we know that it looks like this in a free market. Now, I'll get you to pause though and draw where consumer surplus is after a subsidy has been put in place. So have a go at that. Okay, we should all have drawn something like this. Lower price and greater quantity means that the consumer is much better off, hence the larger consumer surplus. That triangle just gets a lot bigger. Consumers are most definitely winners when a surplus is introduced. Now for producers. Let's look at the market for beef. This can also be a heavily subsidized industry, especially in the European Union. We know, of course, what producer surplus looks like in a free market. Looks just like that. So I want you now to pause and have a go at drawing what the new producer surplus will look like after the subsidy. Okay, let's go. Here's our subsidy, shifting the supply curve rightwards to S subsidy. Price decreases to P subsidy. Quantity increases to Q subsidy. But now there's a difference. Producers do not just receive P subsidy, the price consumers pay. Remember, they're receiving money from the government as well as from consumers. Therefore, in addition to P subsidy, they receive the subsidy, the vertical distance between the supply curves. Together, we'll call this P prod, the price producers actually receive. This area here to find producer surplus is the area between the price they are willing and able to sell for, the supply curve, and the price they receive, pre-prod. So the area here. And if producers are better off, that means another group of people are better off. We know producers are better off, the producer surplus is bigger. And if they're better off, then it means the workers are going to be better off. If quantity produced is greater with a subsidy, it is, then it follows that they need more workers to produce the good. Just makes sense. So that's 3 stakeholders already that are better off as a result of the subsidy. However, subsidies are not a magical pill that makes all winners and no losers. So who loses? The government. Let's draw how much the government pays in subsidy in this market for corn. Heavily subsidized in the United States. We'll start with our normal free market. Supply and demand. Government doesn't spend any money or make any revenue. Now we put in our subsidy. So S shifts to S subsidy, quantity goes to Q subsidy. The extent of the subsidy is equal to the vertical distance between the supply curves, and this is paid for each bushel of corn that is produced. Just that vertical distance, that's the subsidy. So therefore the total cost is the vertical distance between the supply curves times by Q subsidy. That's the government spending on this subsidy. A very common mistake here is that students will only draw the subsidy being paid on the initial quantity, QE. But it's on each unit produced, so make sure you're aware of this error and that you avoid it. So we can see that it's government spending, so subsidies are going to have a negative effect on the government budget. Therefore, by extension, this affects taxpayers. Their taxes go to the subsidy. So there's, of course, an opportunity cost on what else the government could have paid for with this money, rather than subsidising corn. Health, education, just to name a couple. Alright, this is what we need to know about subsidies, so make sure you've understood everything here and that you're ready to participate in class. Thanks.